We are here this afternoon with David Kent, CEO at Piedmont Newton, and Dr. Norris Little, CMO of Piedmont Newton. We're live, and I'm going to get an update of what's going on here locally with COVID here in our community and the Piedmont system. With that, I will turn it over to you, David.
Well, thanks, Debbie, and it's always good to be with you and spend a little time with the chamber members. I wish I had a great report for you today, but it really has been a very difficult August and early part of September. Just the Delta variant of COVID-19 has wreaked havoc, across the country, certainly here in Georgia, and absolutely here in Newton County as well. And we shattered our previous peak. Our previous peak was in January. We were more than 30% higher in August and early September than we were in January. And really the statistics that I've quoted you all in the past, for the most part, have held true insofar as we are seeing mostly unvaccinated patients in the hospital. We are seeing almost all of our ICU critical care patients unvaccinated, and almost all of our ventilated patients are unvaccinated. We are also seeing a younger population still. So I think last time we were together, I talked about how, or Dr. Little talked about how, we went from average age in the first several waves as over 60. And now this wave, it's more like, 53. We're seeing that hold true. We are unfortunately seeing more and more young people get very sick with COVID. And when I say young, I mean 20s, 30s, 40s. And we've had several, 30-year-olds, 40s, and that age range pass away in our hospital. Our staff is very tired. We have, they have done an amazing job of taking extra shifts, working extra hard, being committed to the patients in the community. But they're exhausted, quite honestly. So we're hanging it together here in Covington. We still do have quite a bit of wait time in our emergency department. If you need urgent care, obviously, if you're in dire straits, we'll get you taken care of. But if you have more of a minor issue, you might wait several hours to get us to take care of it, just because we're busy. The one thing that has changed a little bit, and I'll let Norris really talk about it more, is we are seeing more breakthrough COVID positive patients in the hospital. So whereas, a couple of weeks ago, it was mostly, there's Andrea.
Hi.
A couple of weeks ago, it was mostly unvaccinated patients we were seeing in the hospital. Now we are starting to see more unvaccinated patients needing hospital care. So whereas it was 95, 97%, now it's down to about 80% of our in-hospital patients are unvaccinated. Now, again, 95+% of our ICU patients are unvaccinated, and 95+% of our ventilator patients are unvaccinated. So what we're seeing is some people are getting a little sicker than last wave around unvaccinated. Even if they're vaccinated, they can need hospitalization. But by and large, it's still the unvaccinated crowd that are getting very, very sick and dying from the illness. So that has changed a little bit. I think it's clear if you got the vaccine, that does not completely protect you from getting COVID-19, but it does still offer very good protection against severe COVID. So that's what's going on in the hospital. Before I turn it over to Norris, I would just say Thank you so very much to the community for all the support. We've got baskets of snacks and goodies. We've had meals delivered again. I know, everybody's tired of this pandemic. No one's more tired of it than we are, but it really helps when the community steps up the way they have and really helps us out. So I want to say thank you for that. And Norris, I hope I didn't steal too much of your thunder, but by all means, fill in where I may have missed.
Well, I think with Dr. Little, we do have a question that we could go ahead and start with as we turn it over to Dr. Little. It's at the bottom of the screen. Do you track previously infected patients and the unvaccinated? She's curious to know if the unvaccinated include any post-COVID patients.
So it's, that's a harder historical item for us to track. I mean, we do try to look at that and ask questions around that. And certainly there are times when people volunteer that information. And we have seen previously infected patients with COVID be hospitalized with the current variant of COVID. So, there is quite a bit of research being done around this particular question, and I don't know that I can answer that other than just anecdotally. We do see patients who previously been infected with COVID reacquire the illness in the new variant, and that would require hospitalization. I just don't have specific percentages and data information around that. So I do think there is certainly some protection that occurs if you've had COVID previously, but it's a bit like the vaccine. It's a bit like getting a flu vaccine, or having had influenza. Maybe I had influenza a few years ago, but this year I get it again. It's a similar kind of thing because the strain of influenza has changed, and that's what we're seeing with COVID is that even if you've had it before with a different strain, this is now a new strain, and it's therefore possible to get it again. It's really the part of this is very concerning over the numbers of younger people that we're seeing. And I would say that I know the average age is 53, but we see a lot of 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds hospitalized with COVID. And as David said, we've seen deaths around that, which is very sad. It's very concerning. So we're really, encouraging our, population to continue to get vaccinated. Those that get very, very ill are almost exclusively unvaccinated, and have, I can't really speak to whether any of them have had COVID before, but in the historical records that we have, most of them have not had COVID before, so they're new to COVID. No vaccine, no previous history, we continue to think that vaccination is the most helpful tool that we have. We continue to use the treatments that we have available, but there aren't any particularly new therapies out there. Happy to answer questions around that if anyone has any. We also continue to give out monoclonal antibody therapy. We have been administering that to high-risk patients in the emergency room because one of the situations that we saw would be a patient who is mildly ill, comes into the emergency room, is diagnosed with COVID. We give them kind of the usual sort of therapies for a viral illness. And then they come back 4 days later or 5 days later. Now they're severely ill with COVID. So we have started administering the monoclonal antibody therapy to the high-risk patients in the emergency room. And that's a change, I think, since we last talked. So it's been a very challenging time. We have some new intensive care physicians on board in our hospital, which have really been helping us out. We appreciate that new service line or expanded service line within the hospital with our patients, and I think that's a good thing for our critically ill patients as well. But I'm also asked sometimes, do we think this Delta variant causes more serious illness or more severe illness than the previous variants? And if I can, depending on which one of those things I might believe personally, I can go to the literature and probably find support for that it does not cause more severe illness, or that it does. All I can say around that is that, our physicians report to me that the illness seems to be more aggressive than previous variants that they have seen. So when they're caring for the patients, they feel that they deteriorate more quickly and are not as responsive to some of the therapies that we have. So again, we think that prevention is much better than trying to deal with this illness once somebody already becomes very seriously ill. And the prevention that we have is the vaccine. Avoiding COVID at this point is going to be very difficult. So, I mean, this illness, this variant is so contagious that, trying to say, well, I'm just not going to get it unless you just stay in your home, 24/7 and don't go anywhere, is going to be a very difficult plan. But any particular questions or any specific questions that anyone has?
That's some great information that you've put out there. That it's I think that's a good message to get out, is that this Delta variant seems much more aggressive than previous. Is putting it that way, I think, is a good message to get out. And I think, David, at one of our events, you mentioned that have you all stopped the
Elective surgery.
The elective surgery.
Yeah. I should have mentioned that up front, Debbie. So last week we made the difficult decision to pause and reschedule elective surgeries in the hospital. And the reason for that is because we had so many patients in beds, so many patients overflowing into our emergency department. We opened another sort of step down or intermediate care unit on our second floor of the hospital. We had done really everything we could, and we still had more patients than we could handle. And so what we ended up doing was closing or pausing elective procedures and putting inpatients in our pre-op area where we usually prep patients for surgery in beds. And so our surgery staff has been working alongside our regular medical surgical staff to take care of patients in that area, if it gives you some sense of how busy we've been. The somewhat encouraging news is that the incidence rate and positivity rate in our community is starting to drop a little bit. It's still very high relative to what we've seen over the past year, but it is down a little. And we are evaluating right now whether or not we are going to allow elective procedures to begin again. We would like to, because we know there are people in our community who, even though, we call them elective procedures, these are real problems for real people in our community that need to be solved. And so, it's a fine balance that we're walking here, but I expect if things continue to go down, the incidence rate continues to go down a little more, I expect that we'll be back to doing elective or non-emergent procedures and surgeries in our hospital, hopefully sometime in the next week or two. So that's kind of where that stands. And, it's just, it's heartbreaking to see what's really happened here. It's affected everybody. It's affected young people, old people, everything in between. This is not discriminated. Everyone has somehow been touched by COVID, and I hate that it's affecting people who need other non-COVID services here at the hospital in the short run. But we just didn't see any other way to get around it, and we had to make that decision. So hopefully we'll be reversing that decision. Obviously, Dr. Little and I put our heads together with the rest of the team and look at our numbers and try to think through where we think it's headed, and then we make that call. But I'm hopeful in the next week or two that we'll be back to doing non-emergent procedures and surgeries at the hospital.
Yeah.
Debbie,
Go ahead.
the other piece to that is that, I'm sure that many of you have seen the headline today that a patient, I'm not sure where he was located, but the hospital, he had some cardiac condition, and the hospital that needed where he was in the emergency room, they couldn't provide the needed care. They tried 43 different healthcare facilities to transfer him, and they were not able to do so, and the patient died. And so, this pandemic has repercussions that are, way beyond just COVID, and even beyond our electives. It can, consume resources for people that also need other people that need emergent care. And, we hope we don't have to do that, but we, every facility in Georgia and even in Atlanta is challenged with more work that they can do, more patients than they have ICU beds for. And so, this is these are really challenging times in terms of just our, utilization of our healthcare resources and its impact on our communities and the people that we care about. So,
yeah, and I would just continue to say, Debbie, that if anyone's watching and says, what do you want me to do about this? It's good information, but what can I do? We just continue to say, get the vaccine, tell your friends, tell your family what's really going on in the hospital. We have patients who unfortunately didn't get vaccinated, end up in sort of the death spiral that COVID can put them in, where they kind of go from moderate symptoms to dead. And they, at some point before we intubate them, they say, okay, I believe I'm ready to take the vaccine. And we have to look at them and say, sorry, you missed your chance to do that. It just, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And so, I just want people to know what's going on, what we're seeing and what we're not seeing. Certainly the vaccine isn't 100%, fail safe. But it gives you a much, much, much better chance of avoiding hospital admission, or worse, being in the ICU or being on a ventilator if you get the vaccine. I got COVID 3 weeks ago. I've been through it. I had the vaccine. I had a breakthrough case. I had a very mild case, but it was still very unpleasant. And, it really, I was sick. I was in the bed for about 4 days. And I'm just now getting back to what I would consider to be 100%. And if that's mild, it was very disruptive in my life. And if that's mild, then I don't want severe, and we're seeing it. And I just, I really believe in my heart that the vaccine that I got back in January helped protect me so that I didn't end up in the hospital. And I'm very thankful I did it. So I just plead with everyone out there, if you believe a certain way, there's always someone on the internet who will tell you you're right. There always is, no matter what you believe. All I'm telling you is what we're actually seeing with our own eyes right here in this facility. And I want to get that word out.
Well, thank you, David. I feel like it's been so important to hear from, our eyes and ears on the ground, kind of you guys that are with it every day, your faces that we see around our community. And so thank you for taking the time to share this information with the community. And as you said, I know you're tired. I mean, I know everybody is. And I see Andrea on here, and our chamber ambassadors are putting together some goodie baskets for the different departments. So Andrea, if you'd like to speak a little bit, give your contact information for anyone who would like to reach out and help some of the staff, bless the folks there with some goodies.
Sure. Thank you, Debbie, for that. And again, we can't thank the community enough for all the support that we've received. I mean, really and truly, it warms the heart. And every time I write a thank you note, I always say it just feels so good to know that people care about the folks that are working so hard. And, they're tired, very, very tired humans. And I round on them with snacks, and it's amazing just to know when they say, well, who's this from? And I always try to make sure that they know. And a piece of chocolate or just the gesture, it kind of gives them a little bit of oomph to keep going. If you would like to make a donation, we can coordinate meals on your behalf. So don't feel like you have to figure out how many people, calling a caterer, doing all the things. If you prefer to make a donation, you can do that, and I will take care of all the legwork and make sure that the staff knows exactly where that meal came from and who's caring about them. If you'd like to coordinate with me to drop off some goodies or cards or whatever it is, I will be glad to meet you down at the Knox entrance. I am not at a keyboard, but David or Norris, if you just type my email address into the chat box, feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'm very flexible, and just hope you know upfront how much we appreciate it.
We will get your email on this live stream for people to reach out to for sure. And thank you for coordinating this, Andrea. You've been kind of the go-to person for staff support at Piedmont Newton over the past year and a half. So thank you for what you've done with that. And I just want to thank you all. I think I've continue to say thank you. It doesn't seem enough, but for giving us this information and guiding the community through these unprecedented times. And we will be doing a PSA video next week. The chamber will, that'll be giving up-to-date vaccine facts, facts. So we can help get the information out that we do see vaccines are helping in our community. And if we can help people make that decision that are right at deciding whether to or not, we want to get the most current information out to them. So with that, thank you, everyone. Have a good day. And if you have any other questions, continue to type them on the comments, and we'll try to get them answered for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
Bye.